Hello again, I'm Larry Hamilton. Welcome to my YouTube painting channel. Thank you for watching. Today we're going to do an oil painting. We're going to start back with our oil painting series. I have a class coming up in September, so this will be the first painting for that class. The scene today is a place in Montana called Goose Island. If you watch my watercolor paintings on this channel, you'll see that I painted Goose Island several weeks ago, I think maybe in July. And I had some viewers that requested that we could ask if we could do this in oil. And I said, well, sure. I think that's a good idea for my September oil painting class. So that's what we're going to do. So the subject will be a bit of a repeat, but the medium will be entirely different. So if you like seeing how to paint same scenes in different mediums, this will be good for you to watch. Our canvas today is 11 by 14. I have it toned with a gray gesso as usual. And I have my sketch on there put on with a white charcoal pencil. It's like a white pastel pencil, so you can see it all the gray, and shows up very well. I also have my photos at the top. I have my value map at the top of my easel, which I always have. So I'll overlay those when I edit the video. But just want to tell you that we're going to use our same brushes, the Bob Ross set of brushes that I use on almost all my oil paintings that I have for my class, simply because these are the brushes and painting knife that we that we use in that class. So I have a 1-inch blender. I have a small script liner number 2. I have a fan brush that's a number 3 fan brush, and I have the standard Bob Ross painting knife that you see here. And I also then add a couple of Dick Blick brushes that are student grade brushes. Again, these are very low cost brushes, so they're good for students. And I have like a number 10 filbert brush that I use, and I have a number 12 flat. So in addition to that, sometimes I use to get sharp edges on some of my maybe mountains or building scenes, I'll use a golden Taklon brush. It's a 1/2 inch Taklon. It's really a nylon type manufactured nylon brush that has really sharp edges. So for some of the mountains I may use it back there to get a good sharp edge. The paints today, same as usual. I'll go around the palette very quickly and then we'll get going. I have titanium white, I have phthalo blue, Prussian blue, midnight black, Van Dyke brown, dark sienna, which is like burnt sienna, alizarin crimson, sap green, cadmium yellow, yellow ochre, Indian yellow, and bright red, and I have added a Grumbacher color called ultramarine violet. So that is it for the colors, and I think that's all I want to tell you now before we get started. So let's get going on this job. Going to have a nice sort of a sunset, really bright orange, sort of a pink background in the sky, and it's a very beautiful sky actually. So I'm going to start mixing up a little bit of this. I may use a little bit of liquid white. You can use other types of mediums to thin your paint down. Some will make it dry slower, some will make it dry faster, but in this case I'm using some of the Bob Ross liquid white using my large blender brush here. So I mixed up a little bit of yellow ochre and a little bit of this bright red with some titanium white, and get this nice sort of pink sky here that has some varying colors of orange. It gets a little redder as we come to this side, and always add a little bit of liquid white to lighten it up and make the paint go on smoother. If you know how Bob Ross paints, he typically covers the entire painting with liquid white, and I've modified that technique because I like to use sketches with my students, and it helps them get around the idea of having to create something with a brush or with a palette knife without being able to see what they're painting. So it's more of a technique that we use to kind of take away some of the fear of a sketch or putting objects on canvas. So I'm just painting the sky here above these mountains. Got some mountains that are in the distance, some that are closer in, and put a little more white on here. But we have this very nice color that I really like here for these mountains. Let's see if I can get a little more yellow in there. Maybe a little bit more of this. So just kind of put it in here and paint around the mountains. If you have the sketch, by the way, the sketch will be available to you. It's on my website. If you go to the page where I say free YouTube lessons on my website, I have a link for every video that I have out here on that website. And for the paintings that I have sketches on the website, you can find the word sketch right after the link to the YouTube video. So if you found this video through some other means, like a referral or a suggestion, something like that, you can go to my website and get the sketch, and it might help you out a little bit. I'm putting a little bit of this violet in here, maybe a little bit of my midnight black as well, to just give ourselves some texture in these clouds. Make a few clouds up here that are being highlighted by the sun. These sort of string across, they're long stringy things that go across here like this. And there's some bright in here that actually really lightens up in this area right here. Let's see if I can get it a little brighter right in here. Maybe even a little more brighter in there. So I'm just using this big brush and adding my little darker values here. Some artists like to start with the darkest of darks and to kind of set the tone for the painting to get the values correct, but I tend to like to paint these top to bottom, back to front. There's no real rules for painting. Every time somebody sets a rule, there'll be an artist that breaks it. So I don't try to live by too many rules. I just try to make these things look as realistic as possible. This is a representational painting, but I have a lot of abstract shapes I try to develop in here. So it represents something that you know exists, but it also has some abstractness that gives you some feeling of something going on in the sky up here. So I want this to have this nice, a couple streaks in here like this. A little bit too much there. Come back and get a little more of this. Okay, something like this. We'll leave a few brush strokes in there to make it look like we have some clouds. Don't want to mess with this too much, but basically get a nice looking sky in there and leave it alone. The sun is setting, so it sort of has this little bit of a halo effect on some of these mountains. All right, let's move down and start picking up some of these distant mountains. I'm going to make myself a little bit of a lavender color with my white. I haven't cleaned my brush. I'm going to get this violet and mix a little white in it, and we'll start putting in these most distant mountains back here. Hopefully I'll get enough in there you can see it so that doesn't blend away. So the further away they are, they tend to get either blue or a violet color. Some of these mountains actually had some snow on them. So I don't want to paint all the snow in there because it will make it look like it's too close to us, but I'm going to just put in some nice brush strokes to make you think there's a lot going on out here in these mountains. And those edges could be sharper. Doesn't hurt to have mountains in the distance. I'm going to pick up this little nylon brush and sort of could use the knife, but let me just put in some few sharp edges out here to sort of delineate some of these mountain tops that could be sharper. Okay, it's probably enough. Something like that. The sun is really coming from behind us, so whatever's reflecting and whatever shadows there are being made by that, whatever these mountain crevices are picking up, and so let me just pull more down here. There's a little bit of snow, it looks like. I'm going to lighten this up with the white and just give myself a little fogginess back here. So it looks like we might have some snow in some areas. Alright, put a sharper edge up here. Alright, now stop, step back, look at it. Does that look like mountains off in the distance? I think so. Make some streaks in here that make it look like there's whatever brush stroke you use helps tell the viewer that land is going this way. If I make vertical strokes, it makes it look like it's a vertical surface. Okay, that's those sets of mountains in the sky. Let us move over to the next set here that's has a little more gray in it, a little darker. They're coming closer. So this set here could be a little grayer than that. Let's a little peak on this one, sort of has a vertical. So now I'm using this nylon brush again with a sharp edge, so I can sort of get these little sharper edges on this out here. This is just gray. This is midnight black, a little bit of white in it. I just picked up some blue that I didn't want in my brush. Therefore, let's see if I can get that out of there before I put that on the canvas. Yeah, that's better, okay. I have these paints very close together on this palette so I can get them into the one view from one camera over here, and sometimes I mix them together and get the wrong color on my brush, and it's like a little mistake, but you can usually fix it. All right, back to the midnight black and white. Maybe add a little bit of this violet in there. And see if we can get a few different colors here. Darker on the top, maybe. Let's come down this way. There's an area in here that's getting reflected light, and I want to show that. This part here is the darkest, so let's put that in. It does start turning a little bit blue in there in some areas, but let's not worry too much about that. This area here is darker than the area around it. So let's darken it up some more. Okay, like that. This area here is a little bit darker there. And we have some dark sort of V's in here. The area I want to lighten up is this area right in here. I'm going to sort of put white, or it's got really a bit of a brownish light reflection in there. See what this looks like here. I have 2 or 3 photographs I'm working off of here, so this is a sort of a composite of several photos that all have the same scene, and so I'm mixing just a little bit of dark sienna and yellow ochre here, picking up a little bit of this sun's reflection. Sort of sun's hitting on this mountain here, and it's reflecting back on this mountain in front of it here. So I want to sort of reflect that reflection, if I can. And then as it goes out of the shadow, it sort of turns, make this a little bit softer. All right, let's see what that looks like. We'll sort of blend this so it doesn't look so angular. All right, what do we got? Okay, it's looking good. The color, the value seems to be just a little bit darker coming forward. So hopefully we got these values about right. And then as we move forward, the next one is going to be even a little darker than that. So let us get our other brush here that we had some color in. I'm going to pick up some Van Dyke brown now, and some of this dark sienna, and start putting in this mountain here that's sort of a brownish color. It starts getting some green in it as it gets down here. Don't forget our underlying tones of purple. I want to get some other colors in here. I'm just mixing up a whole bunch of colors on my brush and sort of letting it fly here. Whatever comes off is the color, and I can always go back and fine tune that, but right now I want to just sort of let that set and see what I'm getting from it. A little black, a little Van Dyke, a little bit of dark sienna. Change the color. A bit of medium in here to maybe help thin it out. Just you can use your thinner, or you can use some sort of a medium. I actually have a little bit of a medium called Liquin, which is what you see glistening on the canvas right now. It helps the paint flow a little smoother. It changes the drying time a little bit, and give you some nice effects. You can usually use thinner as well. I'm going to get this sharper edge brush here now and sort of tap off the top of these mountains a little bit with this sharp edge brush. So it has a distinct edge to it. A little bit of this. I'm just mixing different colors here. Try not to use the same color twice if I don't have to. This comes down and gets darker as it comes down. It has to be darker than what's behind it or you won't see it. So this is all about contrast here. this darkness difference in the value here is what makes this mountain stand in front of the one behind it. So that's the plan. We have several areas in this mountain that have cracks and crevices and many angular type things that come down the face of this mountain. All right, let's see what that mountain looks like in the distance. Okay, I'm liking the looks of that. Let's see here, maybe a little more here. Start getting into some of these greens because we're starting to get into sort of the tree line here, where there's starting to get a little mixture of trees and some other foliage there. Tree line in these mountains, I've been here several times, and it's usually around 7,000 feet. So when you see mountains that have green foliage on them, it usually means, at least in this part of the country, that it's approximately 7,000 feet where that tree line is. All right, now these start getting a little greener as they come forward, so I'm going to start using, I'm still using this brush that's got really sharp edges on it, sharp nylon. And let's just kind of mix it up a little bit. I'm going to throw a little more blue in there and pick up a little darker greens, pick up some of this Prussian blue. They'll give me a nice set of dark greens I can throw in here. Just try to make some abstract shapes. Don't want to paint every tree in the forest, but we do want to make it look like we have some variation in both color and size of these trees in the distance. And it's just fairly simple like this. There we go. So here we start getting more, some ochre maybe, and some other greens. Pull in some ochre and some yellows into that. You'll start making it lighter. A few greens over here maybe. Getting to like these little nylon brushes more and more sometimes for these oil paintings, because they tend to put on some nice abstract shapes, and they have some sharp edges which you cannot get very well with bristle brushes. Throw some purple in here, change the color a little bit. Down here we get a little bit darker because it's more shadowed. Okay, does that look like the base of a mountain? A little bit. Yes, it does. Got some variation in color. I have some abstract shapes. I don't have any clones. I have a little bit of a triangular shape here that I would like to correct so it doesn't look exactly like a triangle. But other than that, this is looking nice and abstract in here. All right, as I move down, I'm going to get just a little more this color in there, and then I want to start picking up some of my dark sienna in here. Maybe lighten it up a little bit. Start putting this little peninsula that sticks out here in the water. It's getting hit with some sun as well, so I'll flip a little bit of reddish color in here. As it touches the water, usually it gets dark and a little bit blacker at the edges. So I'm going to pop in just some dark brown bank here that you can, makes you think there's some bank on this. Maybe a few more old trees and scrub brushes here. Just using the side of my brush, popping in whatever comes off the brush. All right, so that is that stage. All right, right side. This is a nice triangular shape, and I'm going to try to modify that slightly. But I'm going to put in some basic. Let's see. I want some bit lighter color in here. I'm going to pick this color up that I had for the left side. I want this color to be different. Don't want that thing, even though the trees may all be the same, I'm going to change this color so that it's not identical to what's on the left side. I'm putting out a base here of just, it's sort of got some sap green in it, got some ochre in it, put a little bit of white in there, and I'm just sort of scrubbing in a kind of a green set of trees here. I'm going to come back and put some dark over the top of it and actually paint the trees for you. But let's put this in right now. It's a little bit darker as it comes down this way. Okay, so far I've only used these two brushes, a big 1-inch and this little 1/2-inch flat nylon brush. Sometimes I get enamored with one brush and I'll use it for the whole painting. But, okay. And I don't know if you've noticed, but I have not cleaned this brush out since I started. It's got everything, the colors are still coming through from earlier. All right, let's put a few trees in here. I'm going to pick up a little bit of this Prussian blue, maybe a little bit of this violet color. See if we can start putting in some trees here, a little tree line at the top of this set of mountains back here. So I'm still leaving this fairly abstract because they are off in the distance. The little Goose Island that sits out here in the middle is very small, so that makes this all look very big. So if I made these trees too large back here in the distance, it would distort the perspective of this, and you would not get the feel of how large this space is. So just mixing up some different colors, darks, lights, throwing in a whole bank of trees over here, making it, you have to make it darker now, right? In this area I gotta be careful with the value, because if the trees in front are the same value as that mountain behind it, you won't see them. So I have to make sure these are darker here. And as this gets darker over here, I want to make my trees even darker still, so they stand out. See the difference? You can see them if you make them dark enough. Otherwise, they're going to blend in and you won't be able to tell the difference in the depth from that. So you can see those now, which is what I want. And you know they're trees because of the abstract shapes I'm leaving on the surface of the canvas. They just look like trees. Over here, let's finish this up over here like that. Leave little light spots in there. It kind of helps break up the pattern. Put in a few more, a little bit of ochre in here. I'm going to come back now and start picking up some dark for this under the bank here. I want this to be sort of dark again. Where the water touches, we're going to reflect some of this down in the water. Okay, how is that doing? Let's see. Those could be some rocks over there. I'm going to put a few ochres up in these trees just to sort of break it up a little bit. And I want to put in even some red maybe. I'll pick up a little of my alizarin and see how that does. I'm going to pick the alizarin will start throwing in some nice, sort of graze this green down a little bit. And all these mountains you see, you can put some back over here, which will help tie it together, add some balance, color harmony. Alright, so I've got a little color in there. And over here, let's sort of just pull this together. Alright, step back, look at that on camera and see how it's looking. Alright, getting some nice stuff going on there. Alright, and we have been painting for only about 30 minutes. We have this thing probably 2/3 finished. Let's see here, put in a few more darks over here. Just a little fine tuning here. Nothing major. Okay, so I have some nice colors in that side, on the right side. I have some interesting shapes here. So the trees, let me see. I'm going to stop now and wash out these brushes and step back and look at that for a minute. I'm going to start on the water. Water in the foreground, and that will do us. Okay, all right. Excuse me while I get these brushes clean. Okay, so how are we going to do the water? The water has some beautiful colors in it from this sky reflecting. It's got colors of the sky. It's got colors of these mountains. And I think I'm going to use a little bit smaller brush. I'm going to pick up one of these flat brushes I have here. This is my Dick Blick number 12 bristle. And I'm going to use it to get started with some water. And the water is going to have some of this lavender color in it, and it's going to have some the reddish color. I'm going to start it back here in the distance, and I put some a little bit of this thinner. You can use liquid white, or liquid. So that helps this paint run, cover the canvas much easier. It also doesn't leave a lot of paint on the canvas, so if you want some texture in your paint, you have to go back and hit it again with some more paint to get some texture on there. But basically, this is a good way to cover the canvas very quickly. I'm getting too much of this purple over here on the right side. I want it to stay sort of in this shade over here. Let me come back and so you'll see this. A little bit of this blue in there to change the color a little bit. We're going to have some trees here in the foreground that's going to cover this, but I want some of this to show through. So let's put that in there. Okay, something like this. We have this dark pull down here. Might as well pull some of these shadows down while we're at it. tells you this is water. One thing is these vertical brush strokes. I need to pick up another color, so I'm going to pick up another brush. My students in the class won't have this second brush, but I want to start to keep it as clean as I can for this painting. I could stop and clean out my brush, but I'm going to actually just start putting in this color from the sky now. And it's a combination of bright red and my yellow, ochre, and white. And it's the same color I had in the sky. And I'm changing it, adding a little more white, a little less white in some areas. Maybe a little bit of thinner to help it move a little better. Okay, that looks kind of like a mess right now, but that's what we want right now. Let's see if I can get a little more of this red, white. Just covered down. It's picking up some purples over here, I see. I'm going to put a little bit of that in here. Here. More of this. Okay. So I've left some room here for my island out there. And room for my trees in the foreground here. Where we're going to be able to see some of that water behind the trees. So now the idea is to try to make sure this reflection actually reflects properly so that it doesn't look goofy. So I'm going to come back and pick up my brush that had this violet in it, and I'm going to sort of start right in here somewhere and start pulling down some of this color. It comes all the way down here about like this. Going to have color in it over here. Got to pick up some of these other colors in the reflections as well. You don't want it to just be all one purple color. We do have grass, we do have browns in there. So this is sort of what I'm trying to get to right here. And then over here it's brighter really on the right side. It's not quite as much reflection, although we have to show some. Pick up all of this, lighten it up. There is some reflection back here like this. This is all optical illusion, folks. I'm trying to make something look three-dimensional. And by using the right kind of brush strokes, you can make that look like it's got a lot of depth, a lot of reflectivity. Okay, let's see here. May want to just sort of soften that a little bit. I see a lot of heavy brush strokes. I don't want them to be real heavy, so I use this big blender brush and just sort of pull this way. Come back from this side and do it this way from this side. Okay. Makes it just a little fuzzier. All right. There's really a bright highlight here in the along here that I think I've sort of missed for some reason. So I'll put a little more paint in there and sort of hit that again. And there's a few others that float back in here like this. Anytime you put some horizontal streaks over a vertical streaks where you have water, you end up selling the idea that that's reflective water even more. So again, it's the optical illusion effect of that. Okay, so let's stop on that. And we got the trees in the foreground. We got the little Goose Island actually put in, which is the name of the painting. So we have to make sure we get the Goose Island in there. It's not very big when it's so small. That's what makes this look so huge, is the size of this Goose Island. So Goose Island is going to be really dark and in shadow pretty much. So I'm going to use this brush that I have sharp edges on and just mix myself up a real dark color here with sap green, ultramarine violet, black, a couple browns, and see what I can do here in this area where I want this little island. I think it was about right in here. I've lost it. See, I've painted right over it. Not much to it out there. It's just a few trees and a little bit of land. And that's about it. Trees aren't even that distinct. They're just sort of nice little jobs out there. Okay. So there's a little itty bitty Goose Island. Of course, it has to have a little bit of a shadow or a reflection in the water, so I'm going to take the same color. I wipe my brush off. I'm just sort of pulling this down now, like this. Just a little bit like this. And we'll stop. I think that's going to about do it. Maybe I'll just touch a little bit more dark in the bottom of this here to see if I can separate that just a little more. You probably can't even see that on the camera, but I can see it here in the painting. All right, so that's that. So all we have left now is this row of trees and different foliage that's in the foreground, and we'll be finished with this job. So let's see, I've got the same color. I'm going to start with it over here and just see if I can start getting some trees that have real darks. Sort of pushing up, leaving some holes in here for the background so you can see the water. And same color I used for the island pretty much. I added just a little more green to it. I'll pick up a few ochres and add some change of color in there. I really like this little nylon brush. For some reason I get hooked on a brush every once in a while and I just want to keep using it. Okay, so we have some trees here. We have a few more over this way. Let's start changing the color, getting some more blues in and some darker colors, maybe a little ochre in some places. So we can just sort of put in little trees, a little bit of foliage here. I'm not trying to paint it exactly like the photograph because I want to make this have some nice abstract shapes that you might not find in the photograph. Many times these things in nature are just so perfect, and you'll see clones, you'll see them duplicated. One tree looks just like another tree some cases, but from what I'm learning as I continue to learn, it's not always a good idea to paint them exactly like you see them. Alright, some ochre here. Time for some ochre. A bit too much ochre, maybe. Get carried away with myself here. Let's go back and get some blues and put over this. Just want to leave some paint on the canvas so it looks like we actually did a painting and not just coloring the canvas here. We're putting paint on paper. We got some little trees out here that have some reflections on them. Change the color, change the width, change the size. Even change the style of tree that you're painting. Stop, take a breather. How's that looking? It's getting some nice variation in size and color. Let's go back over on the right side and see if we can start over there with this, some of this same dark, and bring ourselves. This is going to be a little bit bigger tree over here. I'm going to make it, I don't want to make it the same size as this, don't want to make it the same width, but I do want it to sort of stick up like this. So I'm just making a couple of trees over here like this that have some so it's a little bit different color than the left side. Pick up a few of these lighter colors. Putting the lighter colors in will let you see the darker colors. Dark Prussian blue. The colors I haven't used today basically is phthalo blue. I think it's the only color I haven't used on this palette. Pick up a little bit of alizarin. I always forget that to put in some of this, a little bit of a reddish color. It tones down the greens. Gives us some different colors in there to break up the monotony of a whole bunch of green trees. Okay, come back and start tying this together here. I haven't used much cad yellow either, by the way. I think I got a little bit of on my brush a while ago, but pretty much haven't used it. All right. I'm thinking that tree on the right side needs to be, it looks pretty spindly. I'm going to make it just a little bigger at the bottom anyway. It needs to sort of look like it has some amount of triangular shape to it, even though I try to keep away from triangles. And change the color, add a little bit of ochre in there maybe. Okay, there we go. That's a little better. Just little hints of this ochre in some places help give you some depth in the painting. It makes it look like there's even another layer of trees or something going on here. And adds a nice, beautiful enhancement to the painting. All right, now give that another overlook and see if there's anything else I can do to that to improve it. I still see a big triangular shape in this area right here, and I need to modify that. Why? Well, abstract shapes are more pleasing to the eye than geometric shapes. So we want to make as many abstract shapes as we can without distorting reality too much. But let's see if we can pick up some more of this violet here. See if I can get back to that same color. Part of the problem is getting back to the same color here. I add just a few more embellishments here to make it look like it's not quite as triangular as it is looking to me on camera. Pull this out like this, pull it back. So kind of make this edge a little softer here. Hard edge, soft edge. Pull this color in there. Okay, now, do you see any circles, squares, triangles? I don't see many. I don't see any right now. I do have some, this tree has a triangular look, but I also have changed the shape. I have a nice little open space there. So that's the idea, to try to make it so that it may be triangular. It just has to be triangular because of the object you're painting. But you can change it and not leave it that way. Okay, just a couple of embellishments, probably a little bit of some of the trees, maybe a few branches that really aren't even in this painting. Get some thinner, odorless thinner in my brush. Get some of this dark Van Dyke brown and just sort of come in and just do a little some fine detail here with some tree branches to sort of give ourselves a little bit of something to look at in the foreground. I don't want this foreground to be so interesting that takes your eye off of the focal point, but I'm going to kind of angle these in so they help the eye go in toward the focal point. So I'll put in some trunks in here and some things. I could use my scraper. You've seen us scrape before with just using either the back of the back of the brush. You can scrape in some tree trunks that will sort of turn white because you're scraping out against the canvas. You can use the palette knife and scrape that out if you want. But again, that gets sort of boring if you do too many of those. All right, I think to keep this to about an hour, which is a good time for an 11 by 14 oil painting. That means I should be able to teach everybody to paint this in about 4 hours, which is what our class length is. So with that, I think I'm going to zoom back and say thank you once again for watching my YouTube painting channel. I hope you like this painting and I hope you give it a try. Send me some questions, send me some comments on YouTube. I'll try to answer them. And until I see you again, this is Larry Hamilton saying so long for now. Goodbye.